For 6 hours only, New Year's Day, Room to Room has 3 incredible offers. Half off, no sales tax, and 60-month special financing. Plus prize giveaways every hour. For 6 hours only, Room to Room Tupelo, where we know there's no place like home.
Even though Gabe grew up in Alabama, Mississippi has now become his home and his family. And one thing about Gabe is he keeps his family safe.
Mississippi's trusted weather experts. This is Mississippi Live Weather at 5.
Well, Happy New Year 2026. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lompon. Thank you so much for joining us here on Mississippi Live Weather at 5. And hopefully you have had a fantastic day. At least the weather's warmed up a little bit outside today and enjoyed what has been some milder temperatures today. We do expect that we are going to keep some of the mild weather around for your Friday, but we're going to add in some rain chances there. So hopefully y'all are ready for that we don't expect it to be super duper wet. We're going to certainly have enough showers around to probably mess up some outdoor plans if you have those. So rain chances on the increase for your Friday. We're tracking when and where they will be the most plentiful, and kind of an early look at some rainfall amounts as we get closer to this coming up here in a couple minutes. We do think that some rainfall could linger into your weekend forecast, but we're also thinking that there's a decent warm up ahead as well. It could be near the 70-degree points look into next week. So it'll take a few days to get there, but we're going to get things kind of back to the milder category, which is the way, of course, we spent the large portion of the latter part there of December. But our forecast has us 58 degrees at 6 p.m. tonight. We're 49 by 9 p.m., 45 by 2 a.m., and probably mid-40s there, as you can see, into the overnight hours. The cloud cover remains thick. We're bringing in moisture from the Gulf of Mexico, and that will yield to at least some rain chances that end up popping up out and about there as we look into your Friday. And then obviously some of those could linger potentially into Saturday. Hello, Alicia, and everybody watching us on Facebook and all of the other different social media out there. Tonight, Edinburgh, we're 63 at this time, easily one of our mildest locations we have across North Mississippi. And it looks like that reporting station taking the day off there in Cleveland. The clouds are not, as we look out of our camera there from the North Mississippi Storm Chasers. Appreciate them for helping us out with all these cameras as we go into the new year. Excited that they have a new release there. I think Rienzi might be online at this point as we're bringing Alcorn County into the mix, and excited to see that. And thankfully, we haven't had to utilize those with all of the weather we haven't had recently, and drought conditions, unfortunately, continuing to expand. We're 61 in Macon. I want to go back a second here to Cleveland because I missed an opportunity here for a second. You can see the wind direction there with that flag carried away from you, a sign that we do still have those southwest winds there in Cleveland, pulling again that moisture in from the Gulf of Mexico. And then we're going to come back here again to our camera that we have in Macon. And this shows the high, thin clouds. That's where the moisture is. It's way up there aloft. Not a lot of moisture close to the surface. That dew point still mid-30s. That's going to have to come up a lot more. And as rain chances come in, at least initially here, I think that's going to be one of the things that keeps them relatively limited to begin with. Mama Justice, Doppler radar looking here across North Mississippi. It's only those high, thin clouds showing up at this point in time on our satellite perspective there, as opposed to any sort of meaningful precipitation at this point in time. We go back to some place where the rainfall has been extremely meaningful, not just arguably in reality there, out there for the Rose Bowl, of course, underway back there in Pasadena, California. Luckily, things have dried out in the afternoon as we anticipated, turning off a lot of that rainfall. Not to say we couldn't have additional showers develop, but certainly their heaviest rainfall was earlier on today. On the wide shot, one of the reasons for that is that's kind of related to our overall pattern here. As you can see, kind of going the wider shot there, Futurecast keeping it mostly dry into a good chunk of tonight for locations that direction. But for us, we're kind of concentrating on this system back in the plains. And we're still kind of awaiting the lower level moisture to start saturating just a little bit more here. So as you can see at 10 p.m. there for tonight, showers still solidly. Oklahoma, Kansas locations back into Texas. Eventually moving into Arkansas by around 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. But as you can see, getting a lot more deeply into our area as we progress into early tomorrow. Now notice on our scale, this is about as light as this goes. So we're not expecting this to really yield a lot of meaningful moisture, at least not initially here. I think those chances get a lot better by the latter part of your Friday. Again, we're trying to saturate the air. That air near the ground is fairly dry. As a result, most of this falling And we might even have a decent amount if you pull out that Mississippi Live Weather app that shows up. I think most of the rainfall, honestly, probably isn't making it all the way to the ground by 6 a.m. More likely, maybe 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, you see some of these deeper greens starting to show up out there in the Arkansas for Clarksdale, Senatobia, where our meteorologist Maggie McCauley will be broadcasting from 6:30, 7:30 a.m. Yeah, she might have some showers there around 8 o'clock in the morning, maybe a few sprinkles there, Starkville to Tupelo, but not expecting that to be a lot of meaningful moisture, at least not initially there. So for the first 24, again, we're very limited on the rain coverage initially in the morning. I think by 9 a.m., more of that actually getting down closer to the ground. By noontime, I think a greater likelihood, maybe a little dip in the percentages by around 3 p.m. before they start coming back a little bit more as we head toward, say, 5, 6, 7 o'clock for tomorrow. I went 50% on that rain coverage, and I could be a little low, but here's why. That dry air, I mentioned like 6 times in the last 3 minutes. That dry air is something that the showers are going to take a while to overcome. How swiftly that happens makes a big difference on how much we end up seeing as far as rainfall is concerned. Now, coming up in 60 seconds, we will look at some of those potential rainfall totals for tomorrow and over the next couple of days as we kind of break down some of the rain chances that could potentially also extend into your Saturday, at least briefly. We're timing that out in more details. Mississippi Live Weather continues here from the Room to Room Weather Center right after this.
At First Choice Bank, we know you can't always make it before the bank closes. With our integrated teller, you can talk to a live person as late as 7 p.m. on weekdays and noon on Saturdays. It's not just an ATM, it's an ITM. First Choice Bank, your choice for banking.
I felt accomplished after I got my diploma. Made me feel that I could take on whatever challenges life throws at you.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
We're all just trying to keep things running for those who rely on us. That's why we don't have time to be sick with the flu.
We don't have time for delays.
Ready! We don't have time for spills.
Next.
We don't have time for setbacks. Let's be real.
Getting the flu shot
helps you fight the flu.
Get a flu shot for yourself and those around you too.
Right now, from the Room to Room Weather Center, here's Mississippi's Chief Meteorologist, Matt Lovehon.
Well, Happy New Year, Brenda, Jade, Eugene, Wanda, Marquez, all there in our chats on Facebook and YouTube. And for all of you watching the Mississippi Live Weather app, just thank you so much for supporting us. It means far more to all of us here in the Room to Room Weather Center than you could ever imagine, because without your support, we couldn't do this. We couldn't provide this service. And thankfully, we're not having to provide the severe weather portion of this service with this storm system coming through in all likelihood. As you can see, severe weather risk for today, non-existent. For tomorrow, same story. But one thing that I leave off of this graphic that we could plot on, and I'm going to plot it on here for a second, is what we call the thunderstorm potential. And you'll notice here, we don't have a severe weather potential, but I think we could see maybe a couple of rumbles around the region as we go into your Friday, as this storm system moves into the area. Severe weather threat. There is at least one of those level 1 threats as we go into your Saturday. And you can see still maybe a rumble or two possible early in the day near the Alabama state line on this. I'll be honest, I don't think I've ever shown that thunderstorm outline on this, but it's just a reminder that thankfully things have not been overly stormy since we launched Mississippi Live Weather. And yet another system where, for whatever reason, you're going to South Alabama into the Florida Panhandle, where, of course, Panhandle Weather, one of our partners down there, will be tracking things if there are any issues that maybe you're going for a little post-New Year's jaunt down to the coast. They'll be good there, whether it's now, whether it's full severe weather season or anything else that you might have planned down that direction. Outside in Tupelo this evening, give and appreciate Mitchell Cunningham Bowling for sponsoring our Tupelo Tower Cam. Just kind of a gorgeous look of the high cirrus clouds. That's what these are, these wispy clouds. And the reason they're so wispy like that, they're made up of itty bitty little ice crystals. And so as they get carried along in the jet stream, they obviously have kind of a cool sort of look because they're just so light out there. But Tupelo temperature coming in 63, not icy here at ground level. We're much more mild than we've been really for quite a while. Ackerman, one of our newest cameras with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers. Just so excited to be able to have this gorgeous view down there in Choctaw County. Temperature coming in 63 degrees. That measure moisture, that dew point at 36. So flipping those numbers around there, that's some really dry air. That's why the high ice crystals, as close as any real meaningful moisture is now, and it's not going to really precipitate into much. But we think tomorrow that we'll eventually start saturating that atmosphere more and get more of that rainfall down closer to the ground level. And then outside in West Point, 60 that temperature. I'm gonna take a second here, rather than just keep this moving along. We're gonna grind this thing to a halt for a moment, because I want to see if I can go ahead and move around our camera down there in the West Point area, because that is just such a gorgeous shot there of the high cirrus clouds at this point. Let me go ahead and bring up our camera controller down there, because I want to see if those beautiful reds are really going to be as beautiful. If I can pan that back over to the right a little bit. Also see either a little fog or a little smoke there close to ground level as well. So kind of a cool shot. I appreciate you waiting around with me for a second while I get this all pulled up. Okay, so now we're going to kind of tilt this to the right just a little bit there to show some of those high cirrus clouds. Look at that gorgeous red, man. If you ever wonder why you get the red sky like that, that's because we have essentially the longest wavelengths are the ones that, even after sunset, those high clouds are able to capture there. And so those longest wavelengths, infrared, closer to that infrared spectrum there. Pretty good shot. I'm going to take this back over into the tower, I think, a little bit to catch kind of the rest of the colors there. Just beautiful shot this evening. Again, appreciate the North Mississippi Storm Chasers for kind of pairing up with us here on Mississippi Live Weather to be able to provide some of those great shots. So sanity check. We are almost to the kids back to school. In no way is that a big deal in the Law Pond household, or yours for that matter. Tomorrow morning, I think we're going to be milder, but we have the rain chances. So by snack o'clock, there'll be some showers around. So if you're wanting to get the kids out to maybe burn off a little energy earlier in the day, hopefully is a little bit better. By the afternoon, maybe a little bit of a break, mid-50s there, probably peak temperatures. And 3 more days until a lot of those kids go back to school. Well, 3 and some change early Monday morning. We have that timed out for exactly 7 a.m. on Monday morning. Now, rainfall for tomorrow, as you can see, really kind of picking up the more meaningful stuff late tomorrow night if we're going to see it. We show in some cases there potentially rainfall totals up in excess of 2/3 of an inch. But for most of us, it's a lot less. And you can see even when we have some meaningful rainfall there, over a half an inch potentially for locations in southern Monroe County on this projection, we show a 1/10 of an inch in Amory. So again, it's going to be spotty where it's most meaningful. And certainly in the Delta, it's most likely to be less meaningful. Unfortunately, we know everybody needs some rainfall. Mississippi Live Weather Radar, of course, brought to you by Mama Justice. So one of these days, I'll relearn at Mama Justice Doppler Radar, and we appreciate them for sponsoring us here on Mississippi Live Weather and allowing us to bring you these tools to track active weather. No active weather, though, as you can see on the wider shot, till you get back on the plains. And this rainfall you see out there, part of the storm system is going to work in, but this is that dry air. Have we said it enough? These 30s for dew points, not enough to get a lot of meaningful moisture out of this. And so we're going to have to saturate that up. That takes a little bit of time. That's why, as you can see here on Futurecast on the wide shot, there's really no greens out there for this evening and then tonight. But you can see how it kind of goes, even on the plains, from light greens to more moderate greens. And then we start to see more of the lighter and even moderate greens down here as well. Let's bring it in a little bit closer. And so as we do that, you'll notice again, 2 o'clock in the morning, maybe sprinkles out of this, and that could honestly be overselling things a little bit. This is very, very light in those pre-dawn hours of early Friday morning. Our meteorologist, Maggie McCauley, she will be tracking any issues at 6:37, 7:30 a.m. For those of you new to us here on Mississippi Live Weather, she is on at those time frames, Monday through Friday. And if you're new to us or you're still watching us on the Facebooks, we appreciate that. We can, of course, always keep you up to date with our forecast here. But one thing that I don't always mention here until the end of the broadcast, but want to mention that, hey, there's a way to download our app, free and available for all of those different devices there. And we appreciate everyone who has done that, the over 140,000 of you to this point here. Certainly it makes a big difference on us being able to provide this service. You can scan those QR codes there, for the latest on that. So by early Friday morning, we're mid-40s out there for those temperatures. Again, that was high temperature territory just a couple of days ago, and the 50s a sign where we have more moisture out there, Greenville back toward Belzona. And so those showers do start to get a little bit heavier as we progress towards 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, maybe, again, some moderate rainfall out there into Pontotoc County, 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. I'd say, honestly, where you see the darker greens, that's the only places I feel very confident really at all that we're going to actually have any meaningful rainfall out of this in the morning. And even then, we're only talking a couple hundredths of an inch out of that initially. So by noontime, this initial batch of rainfall is starting to exit into Alabama, up there in the middle Tennessee. And this is just kind of setting the stage, starting to get things a little bit more moist. It's when the next batch behind this comes that we start to see something a little more meaningful. Now, what is this red line? This is a warm front. Essentially what this is this represents kind of that warm, moist air coming out of the Gulf of Mexico here. And that's what we have to have. All these lines represent that moisture trying to come northward, trying to get over top of this. And so it hits this front and kind of activates. And that's where you get this shield of rainfall farther north. And so that moisture continues kind of flowing in, and that will then kind of set the stage for hopefully getting a little bit of this rainfall all the way to the surface as we progress into and through the late afternoon and into the early evening. Because again, we have drought conditions that are building. We'll look at the very latest drought monitor coming up at 6 o'clock on Mississippi Live Weather. But again, moderate rainfall, maybe a rumble with that back out there toward around Boonville. We'll look more at those here in a moment. So 58, we're going for the temperature there in Tupelo. Again, the rain chance is most likely farther north, and that warm front, not just a lifting mechanism, but you can see it does have an impact on temperatures there. Belzona at 68, 67, Greenville 66 there in Greenwood. Normal's 53, that's our 30-year average temperature. So, I mean, you start looking at these upper 60s here, we're within 10 of a record for some locations. Obviously, that's not a particularly old record. It tells you that warmth this time of year is something that has become more and more common with climate change, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your perspective. 58, though, again, Tupelo, not that far above our normal. But again, that warm front represents that warmer air coming in. Okay, so this is kind of one of those critical times here for a moment. As we look at 8 p.m., we show this kind of frontal boundary here, maybe some rumbles associated with this as well. As we go toward maybe 9, even 10 o'clock, we show a little bit more red on there. Let me pull off this big low. You can see the storm systems coming in here. So give me a moment. I'm going to get in here. This will actually revert our graphic for just a moment. I'm just going to delete out what we call the surface analysis on that so you can see each and every one of these locations perhaps a little bit better. So as we kind of go through this here, as you can see, the rainfall becoming more widespread, and there's some of those rumbles. Now listen, these are not severe, but don't be shocked if you do have, again, some late evening rumbles on your Friday night, some lightning with this. But as far as any strong to severe thunderstorms are concerned, I think those will probably stay, again, more to our south and honestly be more of a Saturday issue for locations back out that direction there. As we progress into, say, the overnight hours, again, we're looking 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, still some rumbles with this. And this is pretty much exactly where that frontal system was down there. So that's why I want to go ahead and see if we can. I'm going to revert this, and we're going to show you that, again, as we put that front back on there, you can see that's where pretty close to where those reds and yellows are showing up with that, pretty close to that front. Honestly, as that moves out of here, our rain chances do as well. This is not super duper dry air. It's not super duper cold air behind this system, but it's just a little bit cooler as we look into the first part of your early morning on your Saturday. I think the temperatures come down a little bit again Saturday. So normal low for this time of year should be 34. And because, again, we have all that moisture around, we're upper 40s and lower 50s out there for early Saturday morning under what should be, again, mostly cloudy skies and some initial rain chances there beyond dawn, still lingering there, Aberdeen, for Columbus, and for Aliceville for early Saturday morning. Outside of that, maybe a few lighter variety showers here. Oxford, Bruce, Grenada, Chula, Louisville, Ackerman by, say, 9, 10, 11 o'clock on your Saturday. And then that all starts moving out of here. After that, as we have kind of northwest winds behind this, drier air returns. And so we're kind of one and done on those rain chances. So we talked about if you get into some of those thunderstorms, that's where maybe in a couple of spots we're talking about, God, I don't want to say half an inch of rainfall because 95% of us don't see that. But maybe 1 or 2 lucky folks do. So here's hoping we're on the lucky side right? Most of Saturday dry beyond the first part of the morning, and then it's cooler air coming in back behind this. We're 49 for the high in South Haven there, 52 there in Senatobia, 59 Belzona, about 60 in Kosciuszko, 59 Eupor, and 57 there in Houston, 56 in the Tupelo area. Here's a look at that 7-day forecast. Rain coverage, 50%, and again, some rumbles, some thunderstorms, not impossible with this late into the, I'd say more evening than late afternoon on your Friday. Not expecting these to be severe. If you're heading toward the coast, a greater chance for that in South Alabama, South Mississippi, not impossible there as well. We're 56 drier on Saturday, 54 by Sunday as the cool air takes a little time behind the storm system to get in. And at 33 is as cool as we get, meaning we, for most of us, don't get below freezing behind this frontal system. We're 35 as we look toward that morning low on Monday, back in the 60s Monday. And then Monday afternoon, we're back in the 60s. But Tuesday and Wednesday, we're practically to 70 degrees. So again, way above where we should be for this time of year into next week for both those low temperatures and high temperatures. We talked a lot about that last night during our 6 o'clock broadcast, or even back on, I think, Tuesday night. It's that week of the year that it's even hard for meteorologists that's been looking at dates all day long to remember what day of the week it is. Again, maybe that's the kid insanity thing. Different discussion. Hopefully they're not paying attention out there. Either way, much warmer as the kids head back to school, looking toward next week. Speaking of schools, speaking of forecasts, let's talk SEC football forecasts here for a moment. Mississippi State tomorrow, and that first play temperature expected to be in the 50s. In all likelihood, this is expected to be a dry day, and I do appreciate Carl Hogan Toyota for sponsoring our SEC football forecast in a lot of ways. I mean, listen, it's not perfect. It's not super warm. 49, very manageable for a bowl game that's going to be an outdoor venue that's not Florida. I mean, even Southern California today wasn't exactly ideal, right? Ole Miss down can kick off what we're a little less than about an hour and a half away, hour and 40 minutes away from the Sugar Bowl kickoff, one of the biggest games in Ole Miss history, certainly in recent history, and expected to be obviously an indoor game, so no weather impacts there. But for folks going in and around the Big Easy, expecting it to be a pretty good one there with those temperatures going through the 50s as we head into and through the evening for tonight. Our next live broadcast is going to be coming up at 6 o'clock here from the Room to Room Weather Center. We'll look a little more detail at some of the other severe weather components, why we're not really thinking severe storms on this as we break down some of those storm chances. We're also looking at the drought monitor, which we've kind of already spilled the beans on this. Drought is expanding. How much, where, how significant, all of that coming up here from the Room to Room Weather Center at 6 o'clock. We hope to see you then. Thank you so much for supporting us here on Mississippi Live Weather. And if you haven't done it yet, encourage you to download the app, free and available for all of those different devices. We have one for Roku as well. All those folks out there that, hey, you got a new Roku TV over the course of the Christmas holiday, you can download our app for Roku TV, and we'd certainly appreciate it if you do that. Maybe help grandma or aunts and uncles to do that as storm season eventually gets going. You know what that means. So we want to make sure that we're prepared before the day of, so everybody's in good shape there. I see Jade saying Hail State on our graphic there. I don't know, some hottie toddies probably as well as we look on our chat on Facebook and YouTube and all the other places. Happy New Beginnings to you as well, everyone. A Happy New Year to G. Price and all the folks out there. Thank you so much for watching Pod Talk and everywhere here across North Mississippi. We will see you for Mississippi Live Weather at 6.
How do you know when you've made the right decision? It's the feeling you get in your gut. The one that tells you what's right or wrong. It's the one that says, sure, I can have a drink. Or the feeling that says, okay, I've been drinking. Now what? It's the voice inside you that says, I'm buzzed. Better leave the car when it's time to go. Plan ahead. Catch a sober ride. Buzz driving is drunk driving.